Absolute Flash is a deeply human story about anxiety, social isolation, and the heavy, sometimes painful bonds between parents and their children. In a universe shaped by Darkseid that practically drowns its characters in misery and trauma, almost every major player is defined by what they've lost. Wally West lost his mother at a young age, and his father was recently swallowed by the nightmare of the Still Point. His best friend Grodd lost his mother to poachers and his father to military experimentation. His other best friend, Linda Park, is an orphan looking for her long-lost brother, and his nemesis, Dr. Elenore Thawne, is consumed by her obsession with a grandfather who vanished decades ago. When you're forced to carry that much inherited pain, it's easy to retreat into isolation or respond with hostility. But what I like about this book is how it contrasts those broken parental relationships with the concept of found family. Where the older generation responded to trauma with control, secrecy, or violence, Wally and his circle are choosing a completely different path. Wally, Linda, and Grodd are allies brought together by bad luck. They are also outcasts choosing empathy, leaning on each other, and building a genuine support system in a world that feels completely devoid of mercy. Wally is still carrying a massive weight on his shoulders. He's desperately holding out hope that he can rescue his father from the Still Point, no matter how unlikely it seems. When facing problems, his initial instinct is to run away and try to face things alone, but as he steps into his identity as the Flash, he isn't running alone anymore. Which brings us right to where issue 18 picks up with Wally, Linda, and Grodd hanging out at the Dibny Mission. But before getting to the challenge that awaits them, let's first check in with Dr. Elenore Thawne. Since the disaster at Fort Fox, she has been very difficult to find. The rogues had told Wally that she was hiding out with Brainiac, but we see her here taking a meeting at the East Coast branch of the Department of Extranormal Operations. If you've been reading Absolute Green Lantern, then you'll be familiar with this agency. Agents Cameron Chase and Simon Baz are based out of their West Coast office. But the head of the agency, Director Bones, is in this building, and he summons one of his agents, Hunter Zolomon. Now, readers of the mainline Flash comics will doubtlessly recognise him as Zoom, or one of the Reverse Flashes. But here he's a special agent that's been assigned with investigating Wally West. And remember how he had left his business card with Ralph Dibny in an earlier issue? This meeting shows us how Wally ended up on his radar. Elenore Thawne has pulled rank and told Director Bones to use the DEO's resources to capture Wally. You'll recall how Dr. Thawne is a member of this universe's Justice League, which is made up of corrupt elites, and it's clear that they have influence over people like Dr. Bones. As for why they want Zolomon on the case, well, it turns out that during a recent case his very being was disassembled and reassembled. Peril of the job, I guess. And when he returned, he had the ability to see 30 seconds into the future. What I like about this scene is that we can see little yellow lightning bolts around Zolomon's head, indicating that he's using his powers to try out different scenarios, and ultimately lands on this one as the best course of action. He thought his powers were a secret, but Director Bones and Thawne know all about it, and how he's been using them to win big at casinos and hide his earnings in foreign bank accounts. What immediately caught my eye though was how when Thawne mentions who Zolomon had been investigating, their name is censored as if it was a big spoiler. I'm very curious about who this could be. Now, I'm not the biggest Flash reader, so no suspects immediately jumped out at me, but let me know if you have any theories of your own. Regardless of who gave him these gifts, he's utterly powerless against Thawne, and so he agrees to head to Central City along with the Old Man. Zolomon isn't happy about having to go with this person. Apparently the DEO were the ones that brought him in the first place, and he cannot be controlled. Thawne makes it clear that this is not up for debate, and his unpredictability is why he's perfect for this task. This DEO scene is a great reminder of just how oppressive the power structures in the Absolute Universe are. In standard DC continuity, organisations like the DEO or heroes like the Justice League at least pretend to act in the public interest, but here the Justice League is essentially a cabal of corrupt elites who treat government agencies like their own personal enforcement squad. Seeing Director Bones, who is a significant and autonomous figure in the mainline books, bowing down to Thawne shows us that Wally is actively being hunted by the full weight of the state. It raises the stakes massively because even if Wally survives, the entire system is stacked against him, so what's he gonna do? Now let's flash forward to the present with Wally, Grodd and Linda back at the Dibny Mission, chilling out on the roof and discussing the future. Wally could become Central City's version of Wonder Woman, Linda argues, saying that he could be a visible symbol of hope. But Wally doesn't seem keen on that idea. He notes that the government is still after him and likely wants to dissect him. Really, he shouldn't be sticking around because his presence has placed everyone around him in danger. It's then that Ralph Dibny and his wife Sue come up to the roof to let Wally know that as far as they are concerned, this is Wally's home now. He has a family here and they'll help him figure out what comes next. After all, he can't do everything himself. But before Ralph can complete that sentence, his body melts, and eyeballs rip forth from Sue's body as her blood and flesh turns into rabbits and birds. This is the work of the old man, and he has transformed dozens of people around Central City. Casually walking through the midst of it all is Hunter Zolomon. He's on the phone with Thawne, where she tells him that she and her pal Brainiac have given the old man an upgrade to his powers. And for more on Brainiac, the former servant of Ra's al Ghul, I've linked to an Absolute Superman video where I discussed his origins, so add that to your watch later list if the subject interests you. But he is responsible for some very twisted experiments over in Absolute Superman, and he's plying his trade here with Dr. Thawne. It seems like these powers have killed both Ralph and Sue, although remember how Ralph was still alive in the Flash Forward segment a few issues back? Maybe this is just a temporary condition. Wally tells Linda and Grodd to get as far away as they can while he tries to deal with whatever's causing this, but I thought it was interesting how Grodd's only reaction to this devastation is to repeatedly say, "Liar!" He heads out to the streets with Linda hot on his heels, desperate to confront this liar, but he falls face first into what looks like a black pool, only for his head to emerge outside of a top hat being held by the old man, who is Abracadabra. Once again, mainline Flash readers, you'll know Abracadabra as a thief from the future who came back to our time with advanced technology to perform robberies. But here he's a creepy-looking old man with demonic eyeballs spawning out of his cape. Talk about an absolute glow-up. But I think that Grodd's psychic abilities mean he's onto something here. Abracadabra is, at his core, a showman. It may seem like people are turning into gruesome, horrible, nasty creatures and dying, but I suspect it's all a trick and misdirection. I did like how Ralph's fate, where his body melts, is a direct nod to his role as Elongated Man in the mainline comics, and I have to assume that Sue's flesh and blood turning into birds and rabbits is a callback to the typical magician tricks, releasing birds from unexpected places and pulling rabbits out of hats. As for Wally, he tries to do his best to help the people in Central City, but Zolomon catches up to him. No matter how fast Wally moves, Zolomon always seems to be one step ahead. He knows where Wally's going to be. He can see potential futures where he's soft on Wally and Wally fights back, so he has no choice but to be ruthless and beat the boy down. When Zolomon checks in with Thawne, she tells him to finish the job by killing Wally. So it seems like she has a very different definition of bringing in than the rest of us. Absolute Flash 18 is available now from all good comic shops. As ever, special thanks to my channel members because they helped to make this video possible. If you want to see your name on screen and get access to some exclusive videos like breakdowns of The Long Halloween, Gotham Central, and Paul Dini's Dark Knight: A True Batman story, then join the channel now. I'll be back next week with new videos about Absolute Catwoman number 3 and Absolute Wonder Woman 23. Hope to see you then.